So let's go ahead and transition into the featured artist for the night. I'm just having a blast. I drank way too much coffee. Rob's hitting all the buttons, making us look really good. Hicks Video, HIXVIDEO. We'll talk about him later. Grant Duncan is in Tokyo, and we recently did a review on his music. And he was just a very interesting character. So I decided that he was very fit for a featured artist. So this guy, just give you a quick backstory, but I'm going to have him give it just a second. But he's a New Zealander, whatever they call them, New Zealander.
Kiwi.
I don't know. What is it?
Kiwi.
Okay. I've never heard that before. But I'm a dumb American from Indiana, so I haven't heard a lot of things. And but he's in Tokyo playing music, so Dave's going to get a little deeper here in a second with that. But Grant, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here, man. Oh, Rob's got you muted. Sorry. 1 second. Okay, go ahead.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks very much for having me. David, Rob, Mickey, nice to meet you. Hi from 35-degree Tokyo heat.
Cool. So people who don't know about 35 degrees, he's talking Celsius, which is really hot in Fahrenheit if anybody's watching from America. And but it's a truly international show, so we have to learn conversions, which is really weird for me because I'm not good at that. So, Grant, this is the time when I have the featured artist give your sort of elevator pitch. Just briefly tell us who you are, what you're doing, and tell us briefly about Find It Somewhere Else. And we're going to take a listen to it, come back, get deeper with Dave after that.
Fantastic. Cool. Well, thanks, Joe. I'm Grant Duncan, just a singer-songwriter. I'm based currently in Tokyo. I've been here for the last 3 years with wife and child. And I also play bass and sing lead vocal for a band called Pavement Candy. It's a weird name. But a three-piece indie rock band. We just mainly play complete originals. Mainly play the tracks that I write for the albums. And we're just a group that... a bunch of foreigners playing in Japan, really, and there's a lot of there's a good live scene here. A lot of it's underground. You have to try and find the right type of venues to play. It's also very transient kind of nature, where because Tokyo is such a sort of melting pot, the audiences and the crowds, people come and go so quickly. So on the upshot, it's good. You meet a lot of new people. On the downside, perhaps it's hard to sort of build a sort of a steady base because people are just coming and going all the time. I was telling David before, actually. We played this place, the Ruby Room. We played last night, and it's in Shibuya, which is quite a sort of a big meeting area. And we've played this so many times, we hardly see the same people there every time. It's a different audience. So you start from scratch. It's like a tour, as David said. So,
so tell us just about Find It Somewhere Else, and we're going to take a listen to that, and we'll come back and get even deeper into that.
Yeah, latest tune, sort of inspired by. A couple of sessions out with the boys and just sort of connecting a whole lot of different kind of weird sort of scenes. We went to about 4 or 5 different places on this night out and sort of like snippets from here and snippets from there and sort of trying to sort of put it all together. It was a different way of writing. Usually it's pretty standard for me, get the lyrics down and then put a tune to it. But this one was kind of like little segments together and then kind of sort of melt together. So maybe it's not as cohesive as some of my other songs in terms of lyrical content or meaning, but I just wanted to do something straight pop, straight up, upbeat and simple, really simple,
Awesome. Right on, man. Cool. Well, we'll thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for being here. It's like 11 in the morning your time, or a little after 11 now. So, so you got up early for us, right? Just joking. All right. Thanks, so Rob, when you're ready, Find It Somewhere Else. We'll be right back. Get deeper with Dave.
Thing to do, but they're standing with different points of view. Might seem the right thing to say, but who's to know how it's gonna be received? Taking time, who's gonna tell them they've been getting it all wrong? It's a double-edged sword where the margins reap rewards. Maybe they can find it somewhere else tonight. There's a mood for change in the air.
Deeper with Dave. Deeper with Dave. Oh, yeah.
Sponsored by.
Grant Duncan. Nice to see you tonight, man. How are you?
Good, thanks, Dave. Cheers, Phil. Good.
Awesome, man. So I was feeling, I think I said last time we played your song was some Beatles, some Monkeys.
That's right, yeah.
Going that far back. I was also the Rembrandts. I don't know if you've heard them, but they've had some hits here in the States. Man, just as interesting as your sound is your story, man. I wanted to start there. I was like, we were talking before the show, I've had some friends from the US move to Tokyo and just made a life out there as a gigging musician. And it's major culture difference, obviously, and everything. One of them started as an English teacher, and then that was just the way to get out there, and then got into the music. But like I was saying, man, they always had work. They always booked gigs. And so first question is like, why the move, man? What made you do it? Because
well, good question. And in fact, it didn't really, surprisingly, didn't really have anything to do musically, really.
Because they weren't married, so that's an interesting piece.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, well, I'm married and obviously married to a Japanese, and our little son, he was born in New Zealand, but we wanted to give him the opportunity to get some Japanese firsthand as well. And it's easier, we've got friends done the same sort of thing, that to get them over whilst they're still really, really young. And he's had 2 years at kindergarten, and so we speak a lot of English at home. Mainly English at home, and then he speaks Japanese in kindergarten. So
so your wife's from Tokyo or from Japan?
Yeah, Japan.
Okay, well that's a big part of it then. Okay,
so that was the main reason, and then I actually it ties in with your friends as well. But it was the teaching gig, and also I was a teacher back home in New Zealand previous, and the idea was to get over here and sort of kill two birds with one stone and teach whilst I'm over here. So I initially taught at a high school, and now I'm teaching at a private school, and that sort of connected. I met David Jackson, who's our drummer in our band. He was teaching the same school, so we sort of had a school band together, and we had other members that come and went. And
all right, so were you gigging in New Zealand? Like, have you been playing for a long time live?
Yeah. In fact, it's really interesting because the guitar player Matthew Chong, he's from New Zealand, and he was in our band in New Zealand, and we played a lot in Auckland. And as we're saying, it's a small scene, but it's quite vibrant, and there's a lot of good live places to play in Auckland. And so we played a lot there, and then so we sort of hooked up here, and then I already knew David from teaching with him, so we sort of put the band together that way. All
right, so this is cool. So explain the reception, like the feedback that you get from the crowd, the fans in Tokyo as compared to, New Zealand or wherever else you played.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Well, it's in some cases it's sort of a bit hit and miss. Sometimes it can be complete. Like last Sunday night, we played it was called Kitchen Disco, and we played at this curry shop. And it was a curry shop with a stage, and they had 5 acts. All the acts were different kind of styles of music, genre of music, and that. And we were the last band on. We played at about 11 o'clock or 11:30 at that point. People were just finishing their last curries, and we were trying to sort of strike up. We had a set. We played for an hour. We played 19 songs, and it was almost non-existent. They listen a lot more here, and sort of. But we're used to a bit more of a banter, and that back home in Auckland, same in the UK and obviously in America as well. There's a bit more sort of interaction between the crowd, and have a few laughs and sort of not take it so seriously. Whereas here, we were halfway through the set, and I was starting to think, it's dragging a little bit. Not necessarily we're playing poorly. It's just because they're just generally a lot more reticent here, and they're more inclined to listen as opposed to really having it. Of course, they do have it, but it's got to be music that they're really familiar with.
Okay, so they listen more, but they just don't react as much. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. It's
okay.
all kind of it's all connected. They all react at the same time, as opposed to sort of like spontaneous in between a song or during a solo or something like that. It's more kind of at the end of a tune. Or
do you find it easier to book gigs in Tokyo as compared to back home, just because you're the outsider, you're a foreigner, and it's maybe more interesting to the community there?
Another great question. Much easier back home actually to book gigs. You know, the way the system's set up here, it really is. The clubs and bars are in it to make money as opposed to helping the musicians, really. And I know it sounds a little bit negative, but it is the way it is set up. And so if you get on a bill with say 5 or 6 bands, you play. Your job is to sell X amount of tickets. You know, if you guarantee the foot traffic through the door, and then you'll probably break even, or you won't have to pay a fee in order to make anyone. Whereas back home in New Zealand, it was much easier. You pay a fee up front, but then you get all the door takings and maybe a shot on the bar as well, and that.
Right.
And, you've got more control. You can get your bands in that you want to play, and you can sort of pay them and stuff. So it was a bit more it was a lot easier to manage back home than here.
Well, I'm starting to wonder now. I mean, what kind of bands out there are having the most success? I mean, so it's just whoever pulls the biggest crowd, or it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there is a scene there's such an eclectic amount of music here, and such a melting pot of stuff. I mean, it's 38 million people in the surrounding area of Tokyo, and so because of that,
yeah, it's huge.
It's massive, and it's
really tightly packed too, and population. Yeah.
So that combined with, as I said, about the transient nature, there's scenes going on all the time and things changing all the time, but you're probably not even aware of it unless you're kind of in that little loop. We have a good time because we just get up. We don't take it that seriously. We get up there and we're just happy to play new tunes. We go in the studio and record some stuff and rehearse some stuff, and then go out and play it live and have a good time. It's a nice excuse. It's to change from the daily routine of the teaching.
Nice, man. Well, we got your website up here. I think we showed it before. It's grantduncan.bandcamp.com. It's got a bunch of your tunes up there. Got your SoundCloud and Reverb Nation, all that. So that's a good place to go. I think Rob's got it in the lower third, maybe. But all right, man. Before you go, so what's are you just going to continue to play, keep the dream alive? What's the plan?
Well, the plan to head back to New Zealand in the new year at some point, and we'll see what the future in there. I mean, just obviously keep writing.
Are you not sure if you're going to stay in Tokyo?
No, we're sort of tossing it up at the minute. The little fella's about to start school, and so we're going to make that decision whether or not we want to. He's had that integration into Japanese society. He's picked that up, but whether we decide to take him back to New Zealand and start him schooling and a bit more familiar setting for us.
All right, Grant. Well, make sure you come back and visit us. You could see Mickey, who's here with us tonight. She was in your position only a few months ago, and now she's like on her pedestal critiquing others, and that can be you. So just we'll be hitting you up on social, man. But thanks for being here.
Cheers, pal. Thanks very much.